The Border Gavaskar Trophy begins in 10 days. But before we get to that, Ayaz, let's talk about the other border issue. Now we know that India have refused to go to Pakistan to play the Champions Trophy next year, and Pakistan reportedly are thinking of pulling out of the tournament entirely if the games are taken out of Pakistan. Apparently, the PCB is not a fan of the hybrid model that's being proposed, wherein some matches are moved maybe into the UAE. So, what do you think of this development? A, as an Indian, and B, as a cricket fan.
Well, as a cricket fan, obviously you don't want the tournament to be scrapped or get into so much turmoil that one or two or whichever team wants to pull out does that. I don't think that's a very happy situation to be in. But clearly, it's heading into turmoil. That much is clear, with India making it very patent that they will not want to play in Pakistan. So what I'm hearing, and perhaps you also seen or read about that, is that the entire tournament now may now be shifted to South Africa. That's one of the, maybe it's a proposal which has been put out, because South Africa has that facility for a multi-nation tournament with the number of grounds that are at their disposal. So all in all, it's not a happy development. I mean, the hybrid model seemed to suggest that there was scope for the tournament to be held in Pakistan, with some matches held elsewhere, which obviously involved India. But this is getting to be very, very serious. And I think there's going to be some challenging times ahead for the new ICC president, Jai Shah, because this was always going to be the big issue confronting him or anybody who's in that position. It's, as I mentioned earlier, boycotts and tournaments being scrapped is not something that one appreciates. We've seen that happen in the past. 1996 World Cup, when some countries didn't come to Sri Lanka for playing matches scheduled there. So, as I mentioned, I hope that some kind of resolution is reached, see, the cricketing fraternity itself, Anirudh, is not very large amongst the major players. You can count maybe 10 countries. There are, of course, all the associate countries, and that adds up to a large number. But the main cricket playing countries are very few. And if there are going to be casualties from the very few, then it just makes it extremely thin. And in that sense, non-appeasing, non-appetizing, unappealing.
Yeah, so as you said, unhappy development. But I'll tell you what a happy development is, at least for Indian fans, is that Mohammed Shami is back. He's ready to go. He's been named in Bengal's Ranji squad for the match against Madhya Pradesh starting tomorrow. And remember that he's been out of action for a while, almost a year now. Remember that final against Australia in the ODI World Cup. And what are you hearing first? And do you think that if he does prove his fitness in this one game, could he be on a flight to Australia for the latter part of that series?
Well, it could happen. I mean, if he has a sparkling performance, which gives him instant success, so to speak, then I think the team wants him. I mean, that much is clear. They need a partner, a fast bowling partner for Jasprit Bumrah of that kind of experience and caliber, proven caliber. There is Mohammad Siraj, who's been to Australia earlier. In fact, he made his mark in Australia. There's Akashdeep, who bowled splendidly, I thought, in the series against New Zealand. And in the India A matches that we played, actually the bowlers did well. Prasidh Krishna, Mukesh Kumar, Khalil Ahmed, all of them, all the fast bowlers did well. So, but none of these are replacement for Shami. So I think that the Indian team would be very happy if he hits his straps instantly and flies to. Remember also, we don't know the status of Rohit Sharma as yet. So in that sense, even Rohit will be, if he does go and play in the first match, he'll be joining in virtually on landing, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the more optimistic scenario is if Rohit and Shami are both available, then it becomes virtually the full-fledged Indian team available for the first match itself.
Yeah. So you spoke about the unofficial test between India and Australia. India, of course, losing both tests, but the results might not have gone their way. But did you see any bright spots, like you mentioned, the bowlers? But what about Dhruv Jurel, for example?
I think Dhruv Jurel has been the star of the show there, isn't it? I mean, you have KL Rahul and Ishwaran and Ruturaj Gaikwad and Devdutt Padikkal and some of the others who've actually not done too much in the two matches. And these are all batsmen. The bowlers did well, like they did in the series against New Zealand. But Dhruv Jurel is an exception because he did extremely well. He seems to be a very mature young man in the sense that he plays We saw it in the series against England, that he was thrust into the deep end, as it were, and he came out, with flying colours. And this is exactly what he's done in the India matches against Australia, in Australia. So, and these are the kind of pitches that the Indian batting is going to confront. Here, somebody with 2 matches has got runs. He's got a very good technique. He's got a good game sense, when to accelerate, when to defend, and he's obviously a man in good nick. So, in the middle order, I personally think that he might be in the starting 11 in the first match.
Also coming to that Gautam Gambhir press conference where most of the questions were handled by him, he did mention two big points. One was that if, in case Rohit is not available for that first test, KL Rahul or Abhimanyu Sharan could open. And also, more importantly, he completely backed Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma. So, what did you make of that whole press conference and the mood in the camp?
I mean, look, this thing of a tutu meme with Ricky Ponting was in fact not that. I mean, he was confronted with a question from the media, and he's obviously bound to support his players. Even if Ponting feels that the players are under pressure, which actually is right. Even Ponting is correct. I mean, there's no question that Rohit and Virat will be under a lot of scrutiny. And I mentioned this earlier, and I'll say this again, that there's one aspect which is trying to win the series, prove yourself there. Then there's the looming WTC final, where it's going to be very tough for India to get in now without problems, because they have to win 4 out of 5. But if they have to win the series also, they need Rohit and Virat in good nick. And for Rohit and Virat, I think the issue is also about their career beyond this series. So if they don't get runs, if they're not successful, then the questions about their being in the team itself will start raising its head, which is not a happy situation to be in. So I think that Ponting in that sense is right. I think India's success will depend a lot on Rohit and Virat, how they perform in Australia. Having said that, look at it. I mean, Virat has had his best success as a test batsman outside of India in Australia. That's where he hit his first century in 2011. That's where he became, a major domo, one of the big players in 2015. In 2018, he led India to victory, first ever series win in Australia. So he's had remarkable success in Australia, and he'll be wanting to repeat that. And of course, there is Rohit, who had a kind of a belated start to his test career, but he's done extremely well elsewhere. Now he needs to make a mark or an impact in Australia. So India have, four series on the trot. India have beaten Australia, 2 at home, 2 down under. That's a massively impressive record. Not many teams have got that. So the pressure will also be in Australia. It's not that only the Indians are feeling the heat. The other player I want to talk about here is Bumrah. I think he's going to be so crucial, and the attention is so much on Rohit and Virat and perhaps even Pant, and Shami, as you mentioned. But if he goes, but Bumrah, I think, so pivotal as a spirit of the attack, and in case if Rohit is not there for the first Test match, as captain, because how you start the series could well define how you will fare in the series and finish it. So finally, just the last word on this tour. Virat, Bumrah, Rohit, and all of them, yes. But this could also be, this is a defining series for the likes of Yashasvi Jaiswal, Shubman Gill, Sarfraz, Dhruv Jurel, of course. Some of these youngsters who could attain or get their stature enhanced if they do well. Washington Sundar, perhaps. So there's a whole bunch of young Indian players for whom this tour is going to be extremely crucial too. And just final word on the Champions Trophy. Look, the BCCI can't do anything without what the government of India, advises. So hopefully this issue will be resolved. I think from a cricket lover's point of view, I think if it's resolved where all the teams participate, it'll be great.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, 10 days to go for the Water Gavaskar Trophy, and we'll come back to you before that to preview that first Test match in Perth. So, yeah, that's it for this episode of Sports Room. We'll see you next time.